canceling it all together. Your fiancé, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law all disrespected you. If they're going to be this rude and disrespectful to you now, then just imagine what it's going to be like when you get married into their family. OP, please see this as the red sign that it is and get this issue resolved before you get married. You get 0 out of 5 buttholes because your request is perfectly reasonable. Your fiancé, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law each get 3 out of 5 buttholes for completely disrespecting you. Am I the butthole for laughing in my brother and sister-in-law's faces when they demanded to use my credit card? So I'm a 22-year-old woman. I don't have much knowledge about finances and stuff.
Back off.
I do, however, pay my parents about 300 pounds a month in rent. I pay my own phone plan, buy material stuff I want or need, pay out for other services like for music or whatever. And I try to put as much as I can in savings while still keeping enough in my main account for day-to-day purchases. Currently, I'm saving up for driving lessons, and I hope that if I pass decently, I can use some of my savings towards getting a car. I'm in my final year of university, so pretty soon I'll be all done and able to work full-time. I also decided to get a credit card so I can learn how to manage credit wisely and build some up. My credit score is good for someone of my age and circumstance, but obviously it's nothing great in comparison to others. I should point out that at most, I only plan on using this card up to 100 pounds. I've stuck to that so far and only actually used it twice with those purchases adding up to 80 pounds, and I paid it off quickly. I don't plan on exceeding my limit anytime soon, as I've heard far too many horror stories of people just using their credit card too much because it was handy and then going into debt. The only people I disclosed this to was my dad and my mom, and they had the tendency to blab to my brother and sister-in-law, who were both 28. My mom happened to overhear me talking one day, and before I knew it, my brother and sister-in-law got wind of my credit card and asked if they could use it. They both admitted that they had debt brought on by excessive credit card use, and thought that since I basically had nothing owed on mine, it was free money. I told them quite politely that I was really uncomfortable with that idea, and that I would owe them money, and I can't just magic up that kind of money. Things went quiet until a few days later when they both turned up at my house. They were nice to start with, but basically started demanding I let them use the card, and they tried to manipulate my mother into guilting me into doing it. I got really angry, and when my brother said I owe it to them because they used to babysit me up until a couple of years ago, I laughed in their faces and walked out. When I came home, I learned that they tried to manipulate my dad, and he kicked them both out. My mother then tried to guilt trip my dad, and my dad told her to go too, and she's currently staying with my brother and sister-in-law. The only person on my side is my dad, who tells me they're all trying to take me for a ride, and they're trying to manipulate me because I'm young, and they think I'm vulnerable. My brother, sister-in-law, and mom, on the other hand, think it isn't a big deal letting someone else use my card. It's really messing with my head, and I just want everyone to stop arguing. Am I the butthole? OP, no way. You get 0 out of 5 buttholes here. If you give your credit card to your brother and sister-in-law, then they're just going to use it to pay off their debt, which basically means that their debt becomes your debt. And that's if you're lucky. If you're unlucky, then they're just going to use the card to buy a bunch of garbage and still be in debt, which means that you still get saddled with all that debt, but they're still also broke, so they'll continue to hit you up for money. Am I the butthole for flipping out on my son's school after they lied to him about donation prizes? My son is in 4th grade. School is only open on Mondays. The rest of the week he's home with me. They don't do virtual learning during the rest of the week. No Zoom calls are made. No teacher actually checks in. Homework isn't to be turned in, and instead, they get a participation grade the following week if they just tell the teacher they completed it. It's backwards, and the students aren't being graded for the work that they actually do. Every Monday, we get a new flyer in the mail asking for donations. Last week, we got a flyer that said to send out 20 emails to other people to ask them for donations with the promise of prizes for participation. They also had other prizes on this flyer. Basically, the more people who donate using your name, the bigger the prize you get. My son wanted the headphone prize. Nowhere on the flyer did it say how many donations was needed. I called the school to ask and they said 12, so I sent out 20 emails. 14 people donated. The donation list was to be emailed to the school with a student ID, and we were to